Hi guys, so welcome back to another video. Today the paper that we are reviewing is the May-June 2024 Set 23. So the results just came out a couple of days ago, and I think majority of my students did quite well. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and see what kind of questions they were set through during this paper. Okay, so now it's about 11:57 at night. I'll try to do this paper quick, and yeah. So before we start the video, let's roll in the sponsor. There is actually no sponsor at all for this video, and it's a shameless plug time. Okay, so it's actually I want to promote my tuition services. Okay, where I offer group tutoring for both the mathematics and additional mathematics subject. So if you're interested, feel free to fill up the Google form in the description. So without further ado, let's get started with the paper. Okay, so the paper that we're doing today, let's see how fast we can finish it, because this will be the last few papers that we are still allowed to use a calculator in the exam. So the first one, they ask about 2,002,002 in figures. So I'm gonna write 2002 first, and then to make it a million, it will be this. That's it. 2002002, and that's pretty much it. And for the next part, they want us to put a pair of brackets into it to make this calculation possible. So the brackets that I would like to set is actually here. Okay, because according to BODMAS, you're supposed to end up with 12 minus 9 first. 12 minus 9 turns out to be 3, so minus 3 minus 2, you will get 0 immediately. Okay, as for the next question, it's just a very random one. Okay, they're trying to set 4 terms over there to confuse you, but it's actually the most basic type where you just take all the x, calculate together. So it's actually turning out to be 6x and 9y. Okay, the final answer is 6x minus 9y, and that's pretty much it. If you were to simplify, you can do so by having a 3 extracted. You will get 2x minus 3y. So this is actually the answers that I would use, okay, because it's in the simplest form. Okay, so next thing is a cuboid measuring 10 by 7 with a volume. So because it's a volume, which means 10 times 7 times h, which is the height here, it should be equivalent to 280. So just take 280 divided by 10, which is 28, and then divided by 7. You should get 4 as your final answer. Question 5, finding the probability that it will not rain today. So over here, they're testing you on whether you remember the total probability is 1. So 1 minus 0.15, the answer should be 0.85. Okay. So far so good. Seems pretty easy. Question 6. So looking at what was repeating, I decided to take out x and y from each of them. Okay, by doing so, I have a balance of 2x with a balance of 5y as my final answer. So if you want to do it separately to be safe, you can do so as well. Okay, you don't have to do like what I did here, which is all at once. Okay. Moving on to question 7. Map skill. Okay, one of my favorite, because if you don't know how to do it, you definitely couldn't earn any marks from it. So the 1 cm is referring to the map. This is actual real life size is actually 40,000. So they want to make it into kilometers first. So for cm to become kilometers, it actually needs to divide it by 100, making it meters, and then 1,000. So your 1 centimeters is actually equivalent to 40,000 divided by 1,000 divided by 100. It's actually 0.4 kilometers. So if the distance between the two villages is 37, so just take 37 times 0.4, you should be able to get the answers as 14.8 kilometers. Okay, so that's it for question 7. Moving on to question 8, we are supposed to minus them up. And to make this calculation possible, I need to make their denominator the same, making it a 14 minus 1 over 14, which is 5 over 14 here. Okay, moving on to question 9. They wanted us to calculate AB. It's a little bit unusual because the question was surprisingly easy. Okay, AB is actually your adjacent, and then 8 is actually your hypo. So we'll be using cosine 37 equals to AB over 8. When you make AB the subject, you will get 8 cosine 37. So just multiply it out, 8 cosine 37. The answers will be 6.389. And that's pretty much it for question 9 here. If you were to correct it to 3 significant figures, it will be 6.39. Okay. Reason behind is because when they didn't specify, you're supposed to round it to 3 significant figures. So that's your final answer. And when they ask you for gradient, okay, this is one of the easiest question here. Surprise that they ask. So y2, x2, y1, x1. So your gradient is actually by having y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Answer should turn out to be 1 minus 7, 3 minus negative 2. The total is actually negative 6 and 5, which makes your gradient negative 6 over 5. So solving the simultaneous, again, 2 marks question. There's no need to use substitution method. I think elimination will work great here because I noticed that the W repeated. So I just put a 1 plus 2, the direct one, which is 5t minus 2w, plus with 3t plus 2w equals to 19 plus 5. This results here would cancel off them and created a 8t with a 24. And you will get your t's answer as 3. So when your x is 3, and when your t is 3, you can sub into either one of them, sub into 2 lah. Okay, so you get 3t minus 2w equals to 5. We get a 9. 2w equals to negative 4, and w turns out to be negative 2. So this is the final answer that I've gotten here. That is a 3 and negative 2. Okay. Moving on to question 12. Okay, we're halfway through already, apparently. That's super fast. Wasn't expecting this. So 36 and 16, 32 and 16 can be divided. Simplify here. You actually get to 2 only. And then your G16, the division represents minus in terms of power. So you will get 2G8. Okay, free 2 marks here. And the 625 is actually 5 to the power of 4. Yeah. So 5 to the power of 4 and k and 8 first. This is what I would do before assigning the power to each and every one of them. This is the small little details that a lot of students actually miss. Okay, the common mistake is that they will just multiply into one of them and consider it done. Okay, but it actually belongs, or you're supposed to multiply it to both of them. So we get K6, 5 to the power of 3 is actually 125, and K6 is done. Moving on to the next question, A union with everything other than B. Okay, if you are not familiar with how to get this done accurately all the time, you actually just have to duplicate two of the rectangle, one specifically addressing what they want. Okay, so A is basically this, everything other than B is basically this. Okay, because what they used in between them was a union, means everything that was ever being shaded must remain shaded. Okay, so when I combine both of the information up, I come to a conclusion that the sets, okay, notation that they are looking for, or the region that we are supposed to shade, is over here, leaving only the center part from B empty. 13B, okay, so for us to get to there, I will actually use everything other than PQ intersecting it with R. Okay, this will actually be my final answer because I think this is the easiest that I can find. Okay, so this is what I would set as the final answer because everything other than PQ is here. And then when they overlap with R specifically, you will notice that the shaded region is where the two lines intersected or crosses each other. Okay, moving on to question 14. They ask us for PRT. PRT is actually 50-degree. Reason behind is because it was the alternate segment theorem. Okay, a lot of students actually confused by this, but there's a key trick that I always teach my students, okay, which is this part that was being shaded. If you wanted to use alternate segment theorem, you need to choose from the line that was the connecting part. So when I point all the way up, okay, this ending right here is where my 50 will be transferred to. So this is how you actually navigate through alternate segment theorem, knowing that the answer is actually 50-degree. Just like that. Remember the steps. You're transferring this angle to the line and the end of it. So that's how you find 50-degree. And then when they ask you for QPR, okay, so all you need to do for QPR is actually using your cyclic quadrilateral. Okay, why did I mention about it? It's because I noticed that Q, P, and R that we have here actually form a quadrilateral as we have an intersection of at T. The 48-degree, which makes this answer here 132. So just to check, 180 minus 48, 132. And then from here, I'm going to fill it in, making it an isosceles triangle, which means 48 will be divided by 2 and 24 on each side. So this is how you find the answer quickly. And QPR is actually worth 24-degree. So slightly complex, not too hard to be honest. Okay, next thing, interquartile range. So this one you actually required to draw it a little bit. Okay, slightly more works to get to the answer. You have to find the 75% and compare it to the 25%. That difference will be your answer. So 200 times 75% is actually 150. 25% is actually 50, I think. Okay, so trace it down. Remember, it's actually the 50th and 150. So 50th is here. Oh, crud. Okay, if this is what they're looking for, it leads us to 27. And when it is 50, it should be somewhere around here, pointing us towards the answer that is 16. So 27 minus 16, you actually get 11 as your final results. So from here, they want us to find how many students take more than 40 seconds. So this will be done a little bit different. Okay, it's actually traced from the 40 all the way up and then trace it all the way to this side here. Okay, I need to make some readjustment. Okay, adjust it up a little bit, somewhere around here to be accurate. So when I zoom in and check, it's actually 1.5 box. So the key catch now is to find the difference. So there's a difference of 20 between them, 20 divided by 4, 8 divided by 5, sorry. Okay, telling us that each gap is worth 4, which means this 184. And then over here is actually 188. So please adjust the value accordingly because they wanted us to find this specific part. Okay, it's actually 192 here. And when you split it by half of 4, it's actually 2, making this the answer of 194. Yes, 194 is the answer. Okay, so they want us to take more than, okay, which means the 200 has to be minus by 194. Have 6 students that's actually spending more than 40 seconds to complete the calculation. Okay, question 16. Rearrange the formula to make h the subject. So good news is there's only one h over here. Okay, which means our entire solution will be surrounding it. Since it's already positive, I won't be shifting it at all, leaving it at the back. So this is the part where it's so important that you can just swap them directly, creating this thing right here. And then when you make h the subject, things is gonna get into this particular format where your pi d is actually at the denominator. Whether to further simplify it or not, it's totally up to you, but I wouldn't bother splitting it into 2 separate fractions. I think this right here is already good enough. Okay, next question. Standard form. Okay, I expect this chapter to continue coming out in the future exam paper, but they will only set it in future paper 2 where calculator is not allowed. Okay, so what's the key catch about this question here is that when it's multiplication, you can just treat it like a normal indices question where you just take 2.1 times 8. But the 10 to the power of 101 is a little bit special because they share the same base. So the power will actually ended up adding up with each other. So 8 times 2.1, actually 16.8 times 10 to the power of 202. A lot of students will just stop here. And congrats, if you stop here, means you fell for the trap that they set up for you. If you understand standard form perfectly, you should know that we can only put the dot behind the first digit. So you accidentally created the extra 10 here. Okay, when those two combine, you get 1.68 times 10 to the power of 203. So this is actually how you find your final answer. And to make it 101, what's going to happen now is, okay, stop using or rely too much on your calculator. Okay, the key trick when it comes to solving plus minus in standard form is to make their power the same, and it must be the bigger power. So to make this calculation possible, what's going to happen to the 2.1 is that it's going to borrow an additional 10 out. so that 10 to the power of 100 can now be changed into 10 to the power of 101, making the calculation possible here, where you can just add both of them up, getting a final result of 2.31 times 10 to the power of 101. So for whoever that is confused by this, you can always look at it as a question that is 2.1x plus 0.21x. So the x here actually being used to represent the 10 to the power of 101. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this question. Moving on to question 18, we are about last 5 or 6 questions here. Okay, so they want us to find the numbers of sides. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in and fill in some crucial information here first. Knowing that this is 11.5y, the other side is a y, so please add them up. It should be equivalent to 180. So 12.5y equals to 180. 180 divided by 12.5. So your y value is actually 14.4, but please don't stop here, because ultimately they're looking for numbers of sides, which if you remember the formula about exterior and interior angle, the exterior angle formula really comes in handy here, because you will know that, oh, it's just 14.4. When you make n the subject, we actually have n over 14.4, 360 over 14.4, making the answer 25 sides. Okay, so this is the numbers of sides of this polygon. And then we move on to question 19. Okay, question 19 is actually quite straightforward, asking us for a transformation. Looking at the shape from T to V, it's clearly a rotation. There goes 1 mark. Of 90-degree clockwise. There goes the second mark. And then to find the center of rotation, okay, let me zoom in a little. And I think I found it. Found it. So apparently it was here. Okay, for those who don't know how, okay, I'm using a strategy called diagonal of a rectangle. I noticed that these two here is the diagonal of a rectangle. So when I join to the other corner, and when I join to the other corner, they actually matches. So this will automatically form a 90-degree, and that's how I justify that when I rotate, it will get connected from T to V. Okay, it doesn't just work like that. You can actually choose other point. Okay, you don't have to follow what I did here. If let's say you decided to use another point, okay, it will actually turns out to be the same. So for example, I choose this. Okay, you will notice that it was a 1 times 7 rectangle, and the same dimension will actually apply here. Is also another 1 times 7. Okay, so basically you're rotating this rectangle to get to the results. So personally, I will always keep my drawings over there looking something like this, and I will just move on to the next question. Okay, so one last thing that I have to write down will be from the point. In this case, it will be 0, -2. And that's pretty much it for this question. Okay, moving on to the next part, they ask us about enlargement from -1 and 1. Okay, quite tricky because the point is here, and they want us to have a scale factor of -2. So scale factor of -2 means that the image that you draw out later is going to be inverted. So for me, how I normally do this is I will only do 2 of the point first to avoid rushing or anything, my answer will actually look something like this. Okay, wanted to make sure everything is accurate. So adjust it a little bit, make sure everything must be precise. And then when I draw the second line, okay, we'll be joining another point here, making the answer looking something like this. Okay, adjust it a little bit. Okay, so when we zoom in and have a look over here, it was 3, and when we multiply it by 2, it should turn out to be 6. So from here to here, you have a 6 gap. All right, so that's how you find the first line, and then we move on to find the second part. Now will be this line over here where we join out the last point. Okay, so you can duplicate the steps that I did here, then you'll be able to find the answers accurately all the time. Another key trick was that because we are dealing here with negative scale factor, okay, your image that you created won't be on from the same side. It's actually inverted and located over on the other side of the intersection. Okay, so there is the last point that you connected up, and you will get your final answer. Okay, so this right here is where your answers located at, and this is your T prime, or you can write down B if you wanted to. So this is how you find your question 19 B's answer. Moving on to question 20. Okay, fx equals to 2, 4, 5. Basically, we're just gonna use 3 to the power of x plus 2 equals to 245. As you work your way out to rearrange it as the subject, you're gonna minus it by 2 first. 3x equals to 243, and then 3 to the power of 5, maybe. Okay, so this is how you rearrange everything, making it x equals to 5. But for students who took maths, the standard methods that we'll be doing will actually be setting 3 as the base, followed by the results and the x in it. So when you key into the calculator, you will get x equals to 5 immediately. Okay, so log is basically a way that we all use, okay, to speed up the process of finding power. All right, so next thing to do here is inverse. The 3-step method that I always use is to replace the original function as y first. Okay, then the next step is to swap them. Okay, swap here means whatever that was x replace as y, whatever that was y replace as x. So from here, x minus 2 equals to 3y, and then we're gonna use log again. You will get log with a base of 3, x minus 2 equals to y. And this is actually your function inverse. It's just log 3, x minus 2. Okay, but please don't stop here because you will just get 1 mark for finding the inverse. Log 3, x minus 2 equals to 7 is what they are looking for. When you convert it back into indices, it will be 3 to the power 7, x minus 2. So x is actually 3, 7 plus 2. 3 to the power 7 plus 2, making your answer 2189. Okay, so before I continue, I have to give you some example here. 2 to the power 4 equals to 8. Please take note that this is your base. 4 is actually your power, or some people prefer to call it index. And this is the results. So when you wanted to practice to create the log base results equals to power. So basically, it's a mechanism for you to speed up the process of finding power. Okay, so that's it. Let's move on to question 21. Recurring decimals with one dot only. So this is one of my favorite questions. Okay, I will always set my decimal as 4 decimal first, and because the numbers of dot, there's only one dot there, I will amplify it by 10, creating 4.1111. So as per usual, I said 4 decimals, that's why I repeated one more 1 over there. So 10x minus x, you will be able to get 4.1111 minus 0.4111. Okay, so just key in your calculator. You will get 3.7. 9x equals to 3.7. X equals to 37 over 90. So 37 over 90, that will be your final answer. Okay, you can't do anything else. 37 over 90, just to check. It was indeed the one that was repeating here. And that's it for question 21. Okay, question 22, my favorite question. Okay, for my students, they will all follow one specific method called SSJ, which is subject, sketch, and then the last step is actually to justify SSJ. Okay, so subject means making the X the subject. You will be shifting the negative square root 3 to the other side first, and then we will stop here and start sketching. Okay, quadrant never change. It's all the way from 0 to 360. Ask yourself about this value right here, whether it is positive or negative. Apparently, it turns out to be negative. So your answer will be located at ASTC. The answer will be at region S and region C. For whoever that don't know how to do this, I actually made a video previously. It's free, and if I remember, I'm gonna link it down in the description. Okay, if I don't, feel free to browse through the video library to search it up. Okay, this is the first answer, this is the second answer. So let's key in our calculator first. Tangent inverse negative square root 3. The answer turns out to be negative 60. So please take note that negative in basic mathematics doesn't mean anything. It's just telling us that if we go the other way around, the gap is 60 degrees. So this is very important because to find your first answer, all you need to do is to take 360 minus 60. And when the 60 is transferred to the other side, it will be 180 minus 60. And the answer is 300 degree and 120 degree. That will be both of the answers that I have here. Okay, that's it for question 22. Next, question 23, asking us to show it in a single fraction. So things that never change is that we are gonna multiply it together, which means the front, you get 2y minus 3y plus 1. Okay, because they wanted it to be in simplest form, please do not expand your denominator. And when you expand it out, you will actually get negative y minus 3. Okay, for those who are wondering how, the details is actually 2y minus 3y minus 3, making the answers negative y minus 3. So I noticed my issue here. Okay, so change that up. Don't repeat the same mistake that I did here, and all should be fine. Moving on, question 24, asking us for the base between AB and the base ABCD. So there's a technique here for you to identify which angle specifically that they are looking for. Apparently A was the one that is kept on repeating here. Okay, so AV, joining it up, this is what they want to find. So I'm going to draw it out for my own reference. Okay, this is a triangle with VCA. This part is what they want us to find, and the only information that I have at the moment is the 4 cm here. So I have to work my way out to find AC first, and AC will be focusing on the base, where we have AC and B with 5 and 15. To get to AC, it will be a Pythagoras theorem, where you utilize the 15 square and 5 square to work out the answer. 15 square plus 5 square is actually 5 square root 10. And put that in, we'll be able to find the angle between this. So because this is your opposite, this is your adjacent, tangent theta equals to OA. So the theta value here would just be your tangent inverse for 5 square root 10. And the final answer turns out to be 14.1969, which is approximately 14.2 if we were to complete and find the full calculation here. Okay, so last two questions. Okay, then this is the end. Okay, details. First thing I noticed is the 1. Please take note, if it's 1, it can be written as 1 square minus t square. Okay, we'll actually sort out the denominator first, having a 1 minus t and a 1 plus t. Okay, but I wrote it in a different order here. As for the top part, I have to focus on the first two and then group the other two together. I noticed that if I were to make some effort to take out the p, I get t minus 1. And to have something that they both repeat, I will actually have to take out negative 1 from the red group so that it creates the same thing, which is a t minus 1 here. Okay, this is for the red part, this is for the yellow part. So the extraction began because t minus 1 was repeating. I created this as the final answer. For whoever that is confused by this concept here, treat it like a px minus 1x. So if x is repeating, you get p minus 1 at the end of the day. So anything that was repeating, okay, I'll get t minus 1. Oh, to make my life easier, what should I do here? Because they don't repeat though. So I have to take out negative from both of them. I don't expect this, but okay, more work, I guess. If I were to take out negative from this particular bracket, I will get a negative 1 plus t, which is technically your t minus 1 lah. And since they would cancel off each other, and this right here is your final answer. So I have p minus 1 and then a negative 1 plus t. And if you were to multiply it out, you will get 1 minus p 1 plus t as your final answer, because the negative that I have here, I multiply it to the top. Okay, this will be your answer for this fraction question here. Surprisingly tricky. I almost overlooked the details here. Almost. Last part. Okay, so question 26. PR and RQ is 1 to 2. Okay, this is actually my favorite question because they repeated. This serves as a reminder that we are dealing with the entire thing as PQ with a total ratio of 3. So if I wanted to find PR, it will be 1/3 of PQ. If I wanted to find RQ, it will be 2/3 of PQ. Okay, so with the limited info given, I should be able to find PQ first by having PO plus OQ, making it a negative P plus Q. Okay, so far so good. And when we combine it up, you get 1/3 negative P plus Q. This is 2/3 negative P plus Q. Okay, so at the moment, doesn't quite matter much. And then they say OR equals to RS. So this is the part where students confuse or don't know how to fully utilize this statement here. Okay, because of it being the same, which means if I make some effort to find OR, I basically have the information for RS as well. So I actually do that first. To find OR, I need to have OP, and then I need to have PR. So this tells me that I have a P, and then I have 1/3 of PQ, which is this. So please, please, please make some effort to calculate it out in the simplest form, because you never know when will it this simplified information works. Okay, so I actually have 2/3 P plus 1/3 Q first as my OR. So ultimately, they wanted us to find OS because of this position vector here. So to find OS, all we need is basically doubling down on the OR that we calculated. Okay, because it was the same distance, same direction. Okay, based on our calculation earlier, I just transfer it in. And the answer turns out to be 4/3 P plus 2/3 Q. And that's pretty much it for this 4 marks right here. Okay, surprisingly, this entire set is super easy if you practice a lot of past year, or at least the recent 3 years, okay, to keep yourself up to date. So questions that I think is slightly challenging will actually be 25, 26, and question 20. 20 and 22 lah. So if I were to choose the top 4 hardest question in this paper, it will be question 20, 22, 25, and 26. The rest is the same old IGCSE past year. Just practice more and you'll get the hang of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So one last shameless plug. Okay, so if you're interested in joining my tutoring lesson, okay, you'll be taught by me. You have the slides, you have the recordings, you have the worksheet, and yeah, I'll basically help you to prep you for your upcoming examination. So if you're interested, info is in the link in the description. Okay, hit me up and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, or you can contact me via WhatsApp. So that's pretty much it. I wish you all the best in your upcoming examination. Bye.